Today, I'm going to make a smoker out of a few simple, common items. So the idea for this video came when I was thinking about, hey, if I was going to the beach or going camping and I got there and I wanted to smoke something, you know, a tri-tip, some sausages, a smaller piece of meat, could I do it with items that I already had? You know, like foil pans and skewers and aluminum foil. And that got my brain thinking. And I came up with an idea. Whether it's going to work, I have no idea. But I want to take you along with me to see if it's going to be a success, a failure, go up in smoke, whether the meat's going to be underdone, overdone, or we're going to have a fireball. I don't know. But I want to take you with me. So these are the items that I'm going to be working with today. I took some aluminum foil and made a makeshift charcoal chimney to help me get the charcoal started. I have several skewers, and you'll see what I'm going to use these for in just a little bit. Another piece of aluminum foil, which is going to be made into sort of a heat shield to help separate the charcoal side of the smoker from the food side of the smoker. And I have like this little roasting cooling rack thing. I've taken things like this camping to the beach before because they're like little makeshift grills. You can put them over a couple bricks and cook on them. So I thought this was okay to use. And then 2 foil pans. These are large. I'm not sure the exact dimensions, but they look like they're about maybe, I don't know, 20 by 12, maybe a little bit bigger. And from these, and using only a pocket knife, I'm going to make a smoker. So let's get started. So the first thing I need to do is separate the 2 halves. I'm going to set one aside because I'm not going to need it right now. So this is going to be the bottom of our smoker. I need to do several things here. The first is I need to cut an air vent. Imagine it's like the air intake damper on your offset smoker, and something that's slightly controllable so I can move it in and out, increase or decrease airflow if that's necessary. So that's the first step here. So we're going to start at this end here, and all I'm going to do with my pocket knife is I'm going to cut 2 little slots that will be connected only at one point down here so I can fold them in and out, up and down like this. Again, this is all in theory, so let's get started here. I'm going to do the other vertical cuts before I make the horizontal cuts. I think I'm going to have to stand this on its side to do the horizontal cuts correctly. So if you see here, I've created one door here and one door here. Now by keeping these 2 doors fully open like this, full airflow coming in, I can close them up, close them all the way, restrict the airflow. So those are my intake vents. So this is going to be the charcoal side, the firebox side of the smoker. This is going to be the meat side. I'm going to have to create 2 racks, if you will. One which is going to help hold the charcoal. That's going to be at slightly lower level. And one which is going to hold the meat, which is going to be at upper level. To do that, I'm going to use 2 things. Skewers and this little cooling cooking rack. So now the cooling and cooking rack is actually going to be on this side, and it's going to help support the charcoal briquettes to keep them up about 1 inch off the bottom of the pan so there's some airflow. To keep this rack above the bottom of the pan, I'm going to use skewers going through the foil pan to support it from below. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. You'll see I punctured a hole in here with this skewer. Now it's a flat skewer, which is the best kind if you're going to be doing this. It'll help support in the aluminum. So the next thing I want to do is just sort of by sight, I want to go straight across and find just about the same spot on the other side of the pan. And I'm going to puncture through there. So now we have one skewer going all the way through for a support. We've got to add a second one now for this charcoal grate. So if you can see how that's going to work right here, the skewer actually fits in a couple little legs on this thing. It doesn't have to. This could just sit on top of it, but that'll help keep it secure. Now I need to do this at the other end. On this far side here, I'm actually going to use my knife to make the mark in the foil so that I can get through easily. So there, now we have the firebox side of our smoker, which is going to hold the charcoal, like I said, about an inch, maybe a little bit more off of the bottom to assist in airflow and ash collecting below there. Now we've got to work on the cooking side. So it's a similar process we're going to do here. We're going to put 4 skewers through the aluminum skin of the foil pan, and that's going to be our cooking grate. It's going to support our meat, which today is going to be a tri-tip. If you need to put more of these, you can. If you have more, I've got plenty more, but I think 4 should be sufficient to support this tri-tip. It's only about a 2-pound tri-tip, so it's a smallish one. So now I'm going to put these in. I'm not going to put these at the same level, though, as this. I'm going to put these up closer to the edge, this upper lip of the pan, just below it, because I want this to ride higher. And so I'm just sort of eyeballing where this is going to be here on this side. I'm going to use my knife to make the first puncture, and I'm going to go only, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch below the upper lip here. I'm going to do the same for each one of these skewers. Now on the opposite side, I'm just going to repeat the process, working from the inside out. I'm going to make a horizontal hole, because remember, we want these to lay flat in there. I'm just going to repeat this process. And you may be asking yourself, hey, with all these holes, isn't there going to be smoke and heat escaping? Yes, there is. This is a makeshift smoker. It's so you can do something if you have no other way. So here we have the bottom half of our makeshift smoker. We have our cooking grate, our charcoal grate, our inlet vents, which we can adjust like that. Never going to be completely closed, but again, this is makeshift. The one other thing we're going to add is a barrier of sorts between these two sides. Not a high one. I just want enough of a barrier so that any flame that comes from here doesn't necessarily reach right to the meat and ignite any grease. So what we're doing is we're taking this piece of aluminum foil, which is about a large sheet folded, so it's about 4 sheets thick. And we're just going to bend it like that, and it's going to slide under, just to create a slight barrier. And what we're going to do to secure this is we're going to run a skewer through, right through the upper part of this fold to hold it in place. Do it the same process that I did the others, except this one, I'm going to make a vertical slice. Easily feed it through this folded aluminum. There we go. Now let's work on the top. Now our top, which is going to rest like this, is going to have one major feature. That feature is a vent hole, just like your smokestack. And it's going to be right here at this far end. We're going to try and make it roughly the same size in area as the inlet vents. It's not going to be exact. So you can see, opens, closes. It's not going to close completely. It's not meant to. What's the word of the day? Makeshift. So now we have the bottom half of our smoker and the top half of our smoker. Now, how are we going to keep the lid in place and, you know, so it doesn't slide all around. I'm going to make a couple notches where these lips meet so that this can sort of clamp into that. Once we have it set where we're actually going to use it for cooking, I'll show you the other way I'm going to use to help secure this. So I'm going to make a mark here where the notch is going to go. That way I can move it aside. Okay, you can see the little tab slots I've cut in the bottom of our makeshift smoker. And here is the top with the same sort of cuts, except these will fold down into those little recesses to keep this from moving this way. We're going to do something else once we get it over to where we're going to be cooking, which will help secure it even further. So let's get it over there. Today, we're actually going to be cooking on a little fire pit here in my backyard, a little mobile fire pit that we can carry around. If you were doing this at the beach or camping, this would be, you know, on sand, in a fire pit at the beach, or on dirt if you're camping. Right here, this just makes it easier for demonstration purposes. Now, I mentioned I was going to show you one other way that I'm going to help secure this lid so it doesn't, you know, fly away in a gust. You could put something on top of this to hold it down, and I may do that, but we're going to use another skewer, and we're just going to poke straight through the top, straight through the bottom. Now, if you were doing this on sand or in dirt, that would be planted into that and help hold it. Now, though, before we start our charcoal and get our meat on here, we've got to do something else. I apologize for the brightness. This is aluminum foil. It's reflective. So one of the things we want to do here, this is where our meat is going to be, and there's going to be grease drippings. We want to make a place for them to get out, just like you would have grease dripping down in your offset smoker or your electric smoker, any kind of smoker. We're going to punch a few holes here. And this is just enough so that any grease will drain out. Now, if you were doing this on the sand or on the dirt, same thing. It would drain out. You could even dig a little pit beneath it, which would help collect that grease below. Just sitting on a solid surface of sand or dirt would be fine. It would absorb it. Okay, time to start our charcoal. So I created this makeshift charcoal chimney, which is going to be used to help start the charcoal. I just used aluminum foil, rolled it several sheets thick, and wrapped this around a roll of paper towels. You could wrap it around a large can of something just to get the shape. But it's going to sit here to help get our charcoal started. So I need to get some paper up underneath where it's going to light. This isn't as easy as with a standard charcoal chimney. Now, the reason I did this is because I wanted this to be makeshift. This is, you've got these things, you're at the beach or camping and you want to smoke, but you know, you didn't bring your charcoal chimney along probably. So I need to get some paper under here. So what I'm going to do actually is remove this skewer so I can tip up our charcoal grate and get some of the paper that I'm going to need beneath it. Now, there's a chance I may have to do this more than once because I don't know how the airflow and the amount of paper I'm going to be using, if that will be enough to ignite this much charcoal. But again, this is all an experiment. Paper set. Let's get our charcoal in the chimney. I'm kind of just estimating here to think how much charcoal I'm going to need to start this. I can always add more, you know. And of course, if you're, you know, camping or at the beach, you might have a bag of that match light stuff. I just don't like using that for cooking. But, you know, if you did, you could use some of that. You could start your charcoal in a barbecue and transfer it piece by piece. Lots of different ways to do it. Yeah, so I'm going to go with about 12 pieces of charcoal to try and light this and get it going and see how this works. I'm just going to lay these tongs on the top here to help give a little bit of weight to this aluminum charcoal chimney as I light this. That's acting like a charcoal chimney so far. Well, we've got smoke. We had a good flare up of that paper. Let's see if these coals catch. We'll know in a couple minutes. So we definitely have smoke coming, and looking down in there I can see where the briquettes have been lit, but I want to help it along a bit. The way I'm going to do that, plastic straw. Now when I built this aluminum charcoal chimney, I cut little holes in the side, just like your charcoal chimney normally would have to allow air. I'm going to use this straw, and I'm just going to blow some extra air in there. All right, we're going to let this catch some more. See how it goes. See if I need to add any more paper to get going more. I did a second little round of paper in there, which seemed to get it going well. Now you can see that we got a lot of smoke coming. So our charcoal is catching rapidly. I think we'll be ready to cook pretty quick. While we're waiting for that to get ready, I'm going to show you one more thing I'm going to do so that we can monitor this just like we would on our regular offset. Now you may not take your digital thermometer to the beach or camping with you, but I'm going to use it here just so I can actually test this and see how well it does. I'm going to have both a pit thermometer and a meat thermometer. So I need to make a place for the pit thermometer to be secured. All I need to do with that is make a tiny hole right about here. That's it. Our probe is just going to push through there and be suspended like that. It's not perfect, but it'll do, hopefully. Okay, so we have got hot coals down there. You can see red. I don't know if you can, but it's down there. So our charcoal is catching. 2 little bits of paper lit worked. It's not the optimal way to light your charcoal in a makeshift chimney, but it'll do for here. So our charcoal is going. It's nice and hot. It looks like, I think every piece in there has caught. So I'm going to go ahead, and we're not going to dump it from the charcoal chimney, but this makeshift one, I'm just going to lift this off and set it aside. Okay, so we have a nice pile of coals there. I'm actually going to add some more to this so our temperature can build up quickly and hopefully maintain it. Because remember, this is thin-walled aluminum foil pans. It's not going to retain much heat. Now you could double these pans up, cover them with something, do lots of things to hold the heat in more. I'm just doing this way this time to see how well it works with the basics. I'm going to put the lid on and see what sort of temperature we start getting before we add the meat. Get these tabs down where I designed them to go. Let's get our center pole down in there. To help pin that in place. I may add something on top here to help hold it down more later on. I can already tell you, that's hot. Just touching this right there, it hurt. Get our temperature probe in there so we can start seeing how we're doing. Might be hard to see, but we have smoke coming out of our makeshift smokestack. All right, if we're not sure that this is going to get hot enough, let me show you what our pit temp is. 467 degrees. I may have to adjust this a little bit, but it's all right. I'm glad we're able to get heat in there. I mean, it makes sense. It is a smoker, basically. Okay, so the temperature is getting a little bit high there. I'm going to put this in again just to check. Again, we're up at the very top where it's going to be the hottest. What temperature does aluminum melt at? So it might be that you don't need that many coals in here. I may have to remove some. So I'm going to check it out inside first. Go ahead and remove the lid here. So my first question has been answered. Yeah, you can create enough heat in here. You can create too much, so I need to let these coals moderate a bit. I think I'm going to actually remove a few right now and just put them in the fire pit beneath so they're not really doing anything for this. And get the lid back on and check the temp. Okay, so I took 4 briquettes out of there. I'm gonna let these go for a few minutes, just open like this. And then I'm gonna put the lid back on and check the temperature again. My coals look good, and I've made a slight change in plans. I'm not gonna keep the temperature probe in there. I know it gets hot enough now. What I'm gonna do is put the meat probe in the tri-tip, get that on, get everything set and going with a couple little chunks of hickory. I'm gonna monitor it, and if the meat temp is climbing too quickly, see if I can adjust it with these little flap door dampers that I have. But so far it's working. Now this tri-tip I just did with a basic rub. It's like it's salt, pepper, garlic powder, paprika, a little bit of Trader Joe's 21 seasoning salute. So I'm gonna position it this way so the meatiest portion is closest to where the coals are. I'm gonna get my probe in as deep as I can right over here. We'll check that temp real quick in a minute. Okay, so our internal meat temperature right now, if you can see that, it's about 48 degrees, which is just about right because I've had this sitting out for about half an hour after I took it out of the refrigerator. So that should be just about right. Put my couple pieces of hickory on here. If you've watched enough of my videos, you know I love hickory. Those are starting to smoke, and oh man, I can already smell that. I just love hickory. I'm gonna get the lid back on this, and we're gonna be cooking. Little skewer on top. Our little makeshift smoker's going. I'm actually gonna close these dampers just a little bit here and see if that moderates the temperature in there. If you can see it there, but we have smoke. It's not thin blue smoke yet, but it's smoke. All right, so the experiment is underway. It's cooking. We are at 55 degrees internal. Can you see that? We'll see how it comes out. I'm guessing this is going to be, I don't know, hour and a half, because it's running pretty hot. You know, hotter than I would obviously normally do it in a smoker to keep control. I've got those dampers turned way down. We'll see how that works. Again, this is all an experiment. I'll bring you back if something interesting happens or when it's done. Start about 100 degrees internal, and I just want to take a quick look here and see how we're doing. Pop this lid off. Gotta say, that looks like a mighty fine tri-tip. Yeah, it's good. It seems to be cooking really well. Coals are doing well. I don't think I'm gonna have to add any more. So I want to get this lid back on here. All right, let this keep cooking. If you can see, one of the things I did here is I closed one of the little damper doors on the charcoal side all the way down. So I have one fully open, one completely closed, and that seems to have worked pretty well. Stopped getting that dirty smoke out of there. Just seemed to have a good, clean sort of flow of air in there. Again, it was only a couple little pieces of hickory, but the temperature's climbing. I think we're actually going to be right around the 1 hour mark, which isn't too far off for a tri-tip. You know, usually either about 1.5 hours when you're doing about 225 or so. I've had them go as long as 2 hours, but usually it's somewhere between hour and a half. Running a little high here, so I think we're going to be right about 1 hour. I'll bring you back when we're ready to look at it again, probably when it's done. So our internal temperature is 125 right now, which is normally the temp I shoot for in most cases for tri-tip. On a normal sort of smoking session, I would take it off to about 110 and then sear it over coals or on the grill, something to get that sear on the outside, but it seems to be doing pretty well in there, getting a nice color on the outside. I'm gonna let it go to 130, just a little bit beyond 125 this time, just because I'm not doing a sear. This is the first time I wanna cook it just a little bit extra since it's going so fast. And then I'm gonna pull it off and we'll take it inside, slice into it, and see what this thing tastes like. All right, we are at 130. Let's open this up, see what our final product looks like. That's a pretty looking tri-tip. Let's get a closer look here. I mean, it's bright sun, but that is just a beautiful looking tri-tip. And if you look over at the coals, you know, it used, let's see, looks like about 16 coals in there, 16 briquettes. So probably could have just gone with that. I mean, I took about 4 off of there. Probably even could have gone with less. I think 12 actually would have done it and maintained a temperature that would have been fine. Wouldn't have gotten quite as hot initially. But let's go ahead and get this off here and get it inside. Gonna let it rest a little bit and we'll cut into it. Beautiful piece of meat. So let's take a look at this after the fact. I gotta say, it performed exactly like I wanted it to perform. A little hot at the beginning, but that was my fault for having too many briquettes in there. But the separated chamber, firebox on one side, cook chamber on the other, worked perfectly. I could have even made the charcoal side smaller, but I had that rack which, you know, dictated the size. If there was a smaller rack, or even if you wanted to use no rack and figure some other way to keep the charcoal up off the foil bottom, you could. I mean, the ultimate proof is going to be how it tastes, but I can't imagine it's going to taste bad. It's cooked just like you would in any other sort of smoker. Not a lot of grease gathering, Nothing on the cook side caught fire. There was no grease fire or anything like that. On the firebox side, it performed just like a firebox would. Had one damper open and one that I ended up closing. Seemed to cook it in about just, I think it was an hour and 5 minutes, which is not outlandish for a tri-tip. You know, it's not my preferred speed. I'd rather have it go for at least an hour and a half at about 225, but this was a hotter fire. But you know, you could do this if you were at the beach or camping. You could do this. And then at the end of the day, you just throw the foil pans away, the foil, save everything else, you know, the rack, the skewers, and you can do it again. I mean, this entire thing cost, I think these pans, it was a big pack at Costco for about $10. I think there were 20 in there. I mean, they're probably 50 cents each. So that was $1 for the foil pans, and then your foil and briquettes and a couple chunks of hickory. So, very pleased. And now, time to get inside and taste. That's a good looking tri-tip. Oh, let's cut into this. Let's see right here. I'm going to go right here. The grain on a tri-tip you can usually see. It goes multiple ways. This one is going right here. This is going this way. They kind of meet. I'm going to slice right across here. Ooh, look at that. Now this is going to be a little bit more done here because this is the part closest to the firebox. But that's all right. Oh, beautiful. Look at that pink in there. You see that? Look at that color. Now, you're not going to get a huge smoke ring doing it like I did today because there's just not enough time for that smoke to penetrate. Look at that juice. Oh, I think it's time to taste this. Moment of truth. Let's see. Ooh, there's hickory there. Oh yeah. Like I said, you don't have a deep penetrating smoke ring. And on tri-tip, I don't usually see that. But boy, there is a hickory flavor there. Now tri-tip doesn't always get bark. This has a little bit of bark on it because it was close to the firebox down there. I don't know if you can see that right in there. Let me bring it up here and see if you can. Got a little bit of a bark on it. Let's see how that tastes. That's good. That's one of the things I like about tri-tip. It was, I think it might have been the very first piece of meat that I smoked. It was either that or spare ribs. But it's such a forgiving piece of meat as long as you don't overcook it. It accepts great smoke, all the rubs you want to put on it, sauce afterwards. It's just a very good piece of meat. Tender, tender, tender. So this wasn't necessarily about the tri-tip though. This was about that makeshift smoker. And I have to say it worked. It would have worked better initially if I hadn't put too many briquettes in it, but that's my mistake. And the design though, it actually worked. This is smoked tri-tip. It's not grilled tri-tip. It wasn't over charcoal. There's hickory smoke here. It was cooked indirect in an enclosed space with smoke flowing across the meat. There were dampers on one end to allow air in and a stack at the other end to allow smoke out. It was a smoker. Wasn't the most efficient smoker, but in a pinch, if you're somewhere and you want to smoke something outdoors, you have a patch of dirt, a fire pit, grill where you can set it on, or sand at the beach, you can smoke. I can see this doing chicken, sausages. If you had another piece of steak you wanted to get some smoky flavor to, you could do this before you sear it over the coals. A lot of different options here. I don't see this as something obviously you're going to be doing, you know, brisket on for 9 or 10 or 12 hours. It's just going to be too inefficient to do that. If you want to try, post the video, go ahead and do that. I will watch that. But for an hour or two cook, I think this is perfect. Chicken on that makeshift smoker would be really good because it got enough of a high heat burst where you'd actually sort of crisp that skin up on the outside. All in all, I'm going to brand this experiment a success. It didn't blow up, didn't turn into a fireball. it worked. Hope you enjoyed watching me construct this makeshift smoker and cook a tri-tip and taste the tri-tip. I had a lot of fun doing this. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. It sure does help. If you're interested in any of the items I used in this video, I'll put links in the description down below. That way you can check them out yourself. If you're a subscriber to my channel, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so. And if you do, make sure you click that bell. That way you'll get a notification anytime I put out a new video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you had a great day. And I'll see you again soon. Resit. Roxy first. Anderson. All right. Is that good? You guys like that? No more. That's it. That's your treat.